Hello, welcome to Level Change channel, and today I'm going to talk with you about the 737 non-normal configuration performance for the PMDG tablet. Okay, so let's jump inside our airplane. Here you have the 737, and now let's jump to the tablet. I'm going to use the one on the left side, but they are both the same. Okay, couple of things that I'm going to show you today. I discovered based on my real experience, and also based on some trials that I did here on the PMDG. Okay, so when you go to the performance tool, for example, and you go to the landing en route, I'm going to type here the airport that I'm currently in, which is Sierra Bravo Papa Alpha. This is Porto Alegre Salgado Filho International Airport. I'm going to select runway 11 for this case. Okay, I'm not going to change the runway condition. Runway dry is what we have right now. I'm going to import the weather. Okay, so the weather for Porto Alegre is 160 at 3, 24 degrees, and QNH 1011. I'm also going to import everything from the airplane. Okay, so right now I have a weight of more than 72,000 kilos. Okay, just as reference, initially I'm going to keep flaps 40. Okay, and auto brakes manual, and on this one, no normal configuration, I'm going to play with none so far. Okay, this is not the intention of the video, because I really want to show you these configurations here for the no normal configuration. But let's first do a normal landing performance calculation. First thing that you are going to notice when I press calculate here is that we are going to have a message. Okay, so let's go through it. This message says that the landing weight is in excess of a structural limit. Okay, this message, it does really happen on the real Boeing OPT. Okay, so you get this message if you are calculating any landing performance with more than the structural limit for the landing weight. Okay, the thing is, in the real airplane, it gives you the message telling you, pay attention, you are above the structural limit. Okay, but once you press OK, it will give you the information. Even though you are above, you may need to land above maximum landing weight. Okay, so this is something that for the PMDG tablet, for the performance on the PMDG, is not showing, and basically you have no idea. Let's say you just departed with this weight, or even more than this, because this is not even close to maximum takeoff weight on this particular airplane, and then for some reason you need to come back immediately. Okay, maybe let's say I'm not going to go into technical defects, but maybe you have a medical emergency, you have someone dying on board, and you really need to put that airplane back on the ground, and you are landing with something like 73 tons, and you don't have time to waste your fuel, so you need to land on the PMDG. You will not have this information. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know, if you are going to fly the 737-800, and this number is different for each version on the 737, but for the 800 the maximum landing weight is 66,630 kilos. Okay, so in this case now, sorry, I need to press enter here. Sorry, maybe I miscalculate. 66,620. Why I'm not getting? Maybe I took the wrong number. Just give me 1 minute. I'm going to check what is the number again, because I was supposed to be there. I did this check before. So let me go back to the 737 manuals to give you the correct input, and you will see that with the correct input you will have the correct value here. So the maximum landing weight, sorry, 66,360. Okay, my mistake is not 66 360 is 66, sorry, it's not 66, 630 is 66360, okay? So this is the maximum landing weight for the 800, and now when I press calculate, I'm going to have all the information. So it says that with this weight, maximum landing weight on the 737, my VREF for flaps 40 will be 147. The landing, the required landing distance is just short of 1 kilometer, 999 meters, and for this runway we have 2,269 meters. Okay, so what is important for us is this landing distance. Okay, now that you have the maximum weight, any lower weight that you will put here, it will calculate, of course, lower weight with the same conditions with shorter landing distance. So let's say that instead of 66,360 we are landing with 60,000. Okay, if you calculate again, you will see that this comes down to 929. So this is roughly, not roughly, but we can do the math, is 70 meters less if you have 6,360 kilos less. Okay, so let's go back to 66360, which is our maximum landing weight, and we can also select for this flaps 30. Okay, if we select flaps 30, of course we have a higher VREF, so we'll have a higher speed on the same conditions, we'll have a higher landing distance, in this case increased by 55 meters, going to 1,054 meters. Okay, as you can assume as well, if you go flaps 15 and then we calculate with flap 15, our VREF even increases, and then we have a landing required landing distance of 1,117. You have from 54 we are talking about 63 meters more than flaps 30 and 118 meters more than flaps 40. This is because of your increased speed on approach. Okay, so this is all normal. Okay, once again, the only difference in the real airplane, if you input a weight bigger than your landing weight, you will have the pop-up, you will have the message, you will know that you are above maximum landing weight, but it will calculate because you may need to do this sort of landing. Okay, another thing that we are going to do now is that we are going to go to no normal condition. Okay, and here in no normal condition I want to show you a couple of things. Okay, for example, if you go to all flaps up, okay, if you go to all flaps up and then you press calculate, okay, as you can notice here, if you go to land all flaps up, the landing flaps 15 makes no sense, or even flaps 30 or 40. Okay, so the three configurations that we have here for landing flaps, okay, they make no sense for this no normal condition, which is all flap up. And that's not a problem, because on the real airplane, once you select, for example, this all flaps up as no normal condition, the landing flaps cannot be selected anymore, because the only possible flap for you to land all flaps up is flap up. Okay, so for the PMDG, this selection doesn't go away, but it doesn't matter which selection you do, it will always give you the correct VREF for your approach. Okay, so as you just noticed, for flaps 15 is going to give us a VREF of 202 knots. Remember, before with the same weight in flap 15 the VREF was 154. Okay, so now you have the correct VREF. Even if you select flaps 40, okay, and you calculate, you will see that the VREF doesn't change, because actually the landing flap for the no normal condition, it doesn't take into effect. Okay, that's why when you have here, for example, unskid inoperative, you have only F40, which means it's going to be calculated with flaps 40. Okay, so I select unskid inop, okay, and I'm going to calculate. It gives me VREF of 147, okay, with flaps 40. If I change to flaps 15 and I calculate again, it still gives me VREF 147, because I selected here on the non-normal configuration that I'm going to land with flaps 40, so it pretty much just override whatever landing flaps you select. Why I know this? Because in the real airplane it doesn't even allow me to select a different flap setting for some specific situations, and that's how PMDG coded this one, so it doesn't blank the landing flaps, but the selection that you do there, it doesn't change anything. Okay, that's why, for example, if you lose hydraulic system A, you have 3 non-normal to select from here. If you're going to land with flaps 15, if you're going to land with flaps 30, and if you're going to land with flaps 40. Okay, so once again, now we do flaps 40 for the loss of system hydraulic A. It's going to calculate, or already, it's going to calculate. We're going to need 1063 meters, and you can see VREF 147. And I'm calculating with flaps 15. If I select flaps 40, once again, it doesn't matter because it's already select flaps 40. Let's show now flaps 15. Okay, so flap 15, I calculate, it doesn't change. But if I do want hydraulic system A loss with flaps 15, I have the option for flaps 15. Now I calculate, and you are going to see that our VREF for flaps 15 is correct. And even if I change here now to flaps 40, it doesn't change because these always take precedence. Okay, the non-normal condition always take precedence. Okay, for example, if you go for one engine in operative, okay, for one engine in operative, you have the option for flaps 15 and the option for flaps 30. Okay, and also for example, trailing edge flap asymmetry, you have the option here, 3 options, from flap 1 to 15, from 15 to 30, or from 30 to 40. Okay, for trailing edge disagree, you also have from 1 to 15, from 15 to 30, from 30 to 40, and you also have the trailing edge flaps up. Okay, in this case, for the trailing edge flaps up is different than all flaps up, because for this condition you will have your leading edge flaps out, which means your slats and leading edge devices, they will be out. So for this one, if we select here flaps 40, it's going to show you VREF of 187 because you do not really have your slats here. Okay, and once again, if you change your landing flaps, it doesn't change your VREF because you are going to have your VREF based on the VREF that is set on the QRH, on the guidance from the QRH. Okay, so when you are landing with trailing edge flaps up, you have a specific condition, and that specific condition will be represented here on your landing performance. So the actual landing flaps that you select here, it doesn't change your performance calculation, and this is all correct. Okay, once again, this is how is designed by Boeing. So when you select a non-normal condition, it will give you the answer for the flap that is pre-selected on your QRH, on your non-normal procedure. Okay, that's why you have, for example, 3 system A loss, 1 for each flap. Okay, and I thought that the easiest way to tell you that the landing flaps that you select with a non-normal condition, it makes no sense, is that when you select all flaps up, it's going to give you the correct information of VREF of 202, which is really nice for your flaps up with this weight, so it doesn't matter your landing flaps again. Okay, the only problem, one more time, with this kind of calculations is that it doesn't allow you to select a weight that is above your maximum landing weight, and this can be something needed in real operations, or even in your simulator if you are simulating a couple of cases. Okay, so this is something that I still think PMDG has to improve for the landing performance, but everything else is here. Okay, the last step, okay, is that as the landing flap doesn't work, changing the landing flap doesn't work because they make no sense when you have a specific non-normal. The PMDG tablet cannot give you different auto brake settings than maximum manual. Okay, so let's revert to none. So you don't have any problem anymore. You are going to land with flaps 40. Once you calculate, it shows you again 999 meters for you to land. If you select, for example, auto brakes 1, then it's going to calculate, and it says that it predicts the runway distance. So once again, it doesn't give you the answer. On the real airplane, it gives you the answer, and it shows you that you're going to exceed the available landing distance, but it shows you where you're going to stop past of the runway if you select this specific auto brake. Now let's try auto brake 2. So if we select auto brake 2, now we can see that we are really close to the end of the runway. So we have 2,269 meters, and with auto brake 2 we are going to land with 2,235 meters. Okay, so you can see that auto brake 1 that we tried to calculate before was going to be more than the runway, so it doesn't show. Once again, in the real plane it shows for you to have awareness. Of course, you are not going to select that kind of auto brake for that specific condition, but it shows. Okay, and once again, if I now go brake 3 and I calculate, we'll have an even shorter distance of 1,717 meters. Okay, so if you have non-normal condition, you can select from maximum auto all the way to brakes 1. Okay, so maximum auto is 1209, and the last one, just to come back to the first one, maximum manual, which is the maximum brakes effort that you can have, is going to bring to 999. Okay, the problem is once you select any non-normal, for example all flap up, and you ask it to calculate, is going to show you always the information for maximum manual. Okay, so maximum manual, you see the required landing distance is 1,483. If I go auto brake 3, for example, and I press it to calculate, it doesn't change. It still shows 1,483, which means when you select a non-normal condition on the PMDG tablet, the auto brake also doesn't take into account, and all the numbers that you are going to have, they are representative of maximum manual. Okay, so do not take the landing distance here based on your auto brake, because for example you can even select auto brake 1 that I showed you with flaps 40 was not enough runway for you to land, was going to go above more than the runway. Okay, now that I select all flaps up and I'm going to approach with 202 knots instead of 147, and I calculate, it doesn't give me the warning that I'm going to exceed the landing distance. So do not use the auto brake selection as on the tablet to take into account what kind of auto brake you are going to use for your non-normal condition, because all non-normal conditions here, they are calculated with maximum manual. Okay, so this is what you have: maximum landing weight, all flap up landing on the 737 with maximum manual brake. You are going to land with 1,483 meters. For this runway is good enough. You have roughly here 800 meters to spare, so most probably you don't need maximum manual, you don't need maximum auto. You will need something like auto brake 3, and this auto brake 3 will take you really close to the end of the runway. So now you have two options. You select auto brake 3, sorry, you monitor your landing, and you land like this, knowing that you don't have much margin. Okay, and if something goes wrong during landing, you can always do manual braking and stop your airplane, or you can do the opposite. You can select, for example, maximum auto brake. You know that maximum auto brake, it's a little bit more than the maximum manual, so you are going to land, your landing distance will be slightly above 1483, but at least is the maximum brake effort that you are going to have automatically. And once you are comfortable with your landing distance, then you can revert to manual braking and brake a little bit less to use the runway available for you. Okay, in this specific condition, and I'm going to make a video about all flaps up landing on the 737 because one member of the channel requested, you are going to see that I'm going to use some of this performance here. I'm not going to come with maximum landing weight, but if I had to do with maximum landing weight, all flaps up landing in this runway, I would go to auto brake 3. Okay, because if I do need more than 3, I can always step on the brakes and stop the airplane, and I think the brake 3 will give me a good compromise between the runway available and the heat of the brakes when you are landing with 202 knots. Okay, so that's something for you to consider. Okay, I cannot give you an exact amount of how much you have to increase when you select a non-normal condition, because it always gives you maximum manual. Okay, but at least you know maximum manual in this case is going to take pretty much 2/3 of the runway, so maybe auto brake maximum automatic or 3 is enough. If it's more than this, maybe you are really need maximum manual braking, or if you have a longer runway and then you notice that with maximum manual you are not even reaching half of the runway, you can even select brake 2 or brake 1 if you have a really long runway, for example runway 10 in Rio, or maybe runway I don't know 3-4 right in Doha or something like that. Some runways, for example 3-4 right in Doha, you have 4,800 meters, and I'm pretty sure that with 4,800 meters, if you take even brake 1 for this all flap up landing, it is enough. Okay, one thing that you can also check is that your reverse configuration doesn't change. I just selected all operative and you still have 1483. Okay, so because basically if you are going to land with maximum manual brakes, the reverser should change your landing distance, because you are using the maximum effort on your brakes manually, and everything that the reverse is doing is also helping you. But once again, with the PMDG, it doesn't change. Okay, so in real life, the reverse and the auto brake would be presented to you with the real landing distance required. Okay, and the landing flaps will not be showing to you. You will not be able to select once you select a non-normal configuration. Okay, here on PMDG, because they cannot really set or change those configurations for now, so all this information they are ignored, and the airplane or the tablet will present you with a single number. Of course, this number does change with weight, so if you go to land with 58 tons, okay, and then you calculate, you will see that your required landing distance is less than it was with maximum landing weight. Okay, so just have in mind that landing flaps, auto brake and reverse configuration doesn't change your landing distance when you select a non-normal condition, and it is taking into account the correct flap. Okay, is not the one that is selected here, is always the correct flap, but maximum manual brakes and the reverses operating. Okay, so I hope you like this video. I hope now you can start doing your non-normal performance here with tablet on the 7.3 with more knowledge and knowing what to expect once you are close to your landing. Okay, thank you guys so much. See you next time. Bye bye.